Okay, so for today, I was just thinking about a conversation I had with someone in which I was telling them to not get so caught up on whether or not someone likes them or not. When I say someone, men, whether or not a man likes them or not, right? You want to focus on the situation. And the reason why I said that is because, for the most part, a man can like you, he can even love you, but if he's not ready to commit, if he doesn't want to, he will not. They just won't. They'll keep you around. They'll try to keep you around, because, like I said, they do like you as a person. But as far as actually committing long term, they're not going to do that, right? And a lot of this has to do with how men and women are socialized. Women, we are given, the idea of, the Disney, being swept off our feet, the Prince Charming. Me having grown up in the church, it was always how to be a wife, how to stay pure, how to live a life that would be honoring to my husband, even though I was, little. It's like, husband, like, what the heck? I'm like 9, y'all, like, what? But it was always focused on our roles, so to speak, as a wife. And again, that's very, very much reinforced by pop culture in a lot of ways, right? And not only that too, but even in terms of our biology. Biology wise, for women is to seek whoever can give us the most protection, and I should say most, well, who could basically protect us from our environment. That's who we wanted, because that was the best case scenario for our genes, making sure that our genetics, bloodline, lived long enough for another generation to happen. Now, when it comes to men and how they're socialized, men are not taught to prioritize commitment or marriage. If anything, growing up, it was always, even watching television, it always seemed like almost like a joke, right? There was always the comedic relief of a guy who, was always had some, a lot of women, and, it was always a funny thing when he had, the new woman come through. Men are social, so as far as how they're socialized, they're taught to prioritize money, power, having a lot of women, like I just said, having a lot of women. Those are the things that they're focused on, right? And until they've actually satisfied that goal of theirs, however they kind of, factor that goal into their lives, they will not commit. For the most part. Of course, there's some outliers who, grew up wanting to be husbands and whatnot. So, but for the most part, they will not commit. They just won't. What ends up happening, and why I say that a lot of times what we think is game is actually just male behavior. When what ends up happening is a lot of sticky situations in which, communication was lacking, and, they kind of kept the situation kind of in flux, not really being that forthcoming on their intentions, in order to keep benefiting from the situation, without actually having to take the responsibility of committing. And a lot of times that's what, when a guy goes hot and cold, or one of the reasons for ghosting, like I said before, that's where you get those kind of situations arise. And a lot of times, like I said, I say, it doesn't necessarily have to do with whether or not they like you. It has to do with the situation at hand, right? So don't get too caught up in whether or not they like you, right? So as I was saying, in terms of, like ghosting, hot and cold behavior, and things like that, something to keep in mind, and I mentioned this in my vetting video, for women especially, and this also, I should say too, this also has to deal with your own goals going forward, right? I'm not the morality police, so it's whatever. I'm talking about people who actually want long-term relationships, marriage, and things like that. There's certain ways that you have to move in order to make that happen, right? And so with all this, you do want to keep in mind of, how much that you're investing in a person, whether or not you give them sex too. Because like I said, men will prioritize what benefits them. And so you want to make sure that you don't cloud your own judgment when it comes to choosing a partner, because it'll come to a point where, you may be fussing at someone who you thought wanted to be committed to you, but they're not. They're just kind of out here, right? And like I said, it's not necessarily, I know this gets me in trouble. It's not necessarily game. It's just their nature. And there's a fine, I do believe there's a fine line in there somewhere, right? Because I do think that they should be held, people should be held accountable for when they aren't clear about things, right? Because I saw someone mention not too long ago, I don't remember who it was, but they were saying, that's just male nature, you have to deal with it. And no, I don't subscribe to that. You'll see in my ebook what I say about it is, just because something is your nature doesn't mean it's right? It's in my nature to eat when I'm hungry, but I don't walk into a Costco and load up a cart and walk out and say, well, it's my nature, sorry. That's just not something that happens, right? We do have to mind how we treat one another and go about dealing with one another. But this is the reason why it's really, really, really important to set boundaries and be clear about what you want, because what it ends up doing is weeding out people. And that's what you want to happen, right? It's not a good idea. It's, in theory, it sounds good to get a lot of, attention and whatnot, but for the most part, majority of people aren't going to like you, right? And even when I was saying how, men, they'll choose as if there's one thing that men are great at, it's choosing a situation that benefits them, right? They'll even go so far as to stay with someone for years and years and years only because she is gorgeous and provides, personal clout. There's certain body types and things like that become popular over the years. Remember in the early 90s where it was just, the video girl, you know what I'm talking about, those bodies and everything. But because humans, there's a variety in what we like, I guarantee 100% that there were guys who went out and got a woman who looked like that, only to be like, internally, I don't really like her all like that. I actually like, this other kind of woman over here. But because it gets me, status and clout and things like that with other men, with society, it's what society says, once I get this kind of woman, I'm really making it out here. So they'll stay. They'll keep that situation for years. They may even like her a little bit. But ultimately they have no plans for long-term commitment, right? So I say again, do not get caught up in whether or not someone likes you, because a lot of times they actually do, right? It's just what they actually plan to do with those feelings for you is what makes all the difference, right? So that is what I have today. Again, I'm gonna keep talking on these topics because they can get kind of there's a tangled web, I would say, of where this topic kind of goes to. And it's kind of a hard pill to swallow too, as a woman, because you're taught one thing, there's actually something else that happens. I remember when I first realized, like, wait a minute, so they actually do like you, or maybe even an aspect of you, but they're just not acting on it. That's, like, I admit that's still kind of wild to me. But I mean, it just is what it is, right? Like I can't do anything about it. Just kind of is what it is. So yeah, that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening, and my consultation link is down below. And the sign up for the ebook that I'll be releasing soon, hopefully soon, is below as well. Okay, so you have a good one. Thank you for watching. Bye.